But they stopped being able to service the Ponzi scheme. So they went to their next source of capital, which was this CPA company.
Oh, no.
Where they had all these like huge companies, like 30, 40, $50 million companies that use them for a CPA firm. And this is like the kind of area where like somebody's daddy started like the ironworks company and was working with his buddy's CPA firm. And then their kids moved into the company and they worked together and like this whole thing. And they were paying their taxes to this CPA company so they could like pay to the IRS whatever they needed to do. And they just said, nah, and they decided they were going to keep it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the real estate show where we teach you how to make massive income rather than just passive income with your real estate business.
Boom.
If this is your first time here, my name is Mike DeHaan. I'm here with my co-host, Dan Austin, and we have been doing this real estate thing full-time for a little while now, 4 years. You know, a few hundred deals, all sorts of different businesses. We're slowly filling up the real estate bingo card, going through our first foreclosures and stuff right now from our lending business. If you listened to our episode last week, we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, and it's only getting more and more interesting in the real estate space as a whole, as the economy is just getting weirder, right? And
weird, super weird.
And here's the thing, right? When it comes to business in general, everyone likes to make money. Everyone likes to talk about business and do business. But when stuff starts to get tight, people get sensitive and they start suing each other and, you know, scamming each other and doing weird stuff. And we are seeing that all over the place right now. Even with
There's a lot of weird shit.
Lots of weird stuff, even with some of the biggest names. And so I'm still trying to understand the details of this. I'll preface it, but this came out just a couple of hours before this recording about this massive lawsuit that I guess it's in several states. But juries have gone and found the National Association of Realtors, Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway, a bunch of other real estate companies basically guilty of,
running a cartel.
Yeah, basically running a cartel. Guilty of antitrust laws around how they establish real estate commissions and basically inflating commissions. And current damages are expected to be paid back are $1.8 billion, but maybe climbing to over $5 billion as they continue.
I'm so excited.
Different sort of situations.
I'm so excited for this because I'm just seeing like all the realtors like get all tense and like they're all going to get worried, and they should, because this is a thing that I think the iBuyers and Zillow and all these people coming into this market using technology and trying to like change the industry, which had a lot of pushback because you had a lot of old basically systems, and you and I know this, like dealing with like the real estate agent like systems in general, they're so clunky, right? The forms and everything that they're doing. So you have all these people coming in with technology, and it's really kind of been stopped almost because of the old cartel called the NAR and you know the Realtor, you know, .com or whatever. Yep, National Associated Realtors and all that sort of stuff. And now that's all in question, right? Maybe they can't just get 6%, because that's what a lot of people say. Like, why would I pay you 6% to sell my house? And in an up market, especially, right, when it like you probably don't need to. In a market like this, I think there's some argument that an agent brings a ton of value, which I won't ever argue. But either way, should you be giving 6% of your top line revenue after you're already giving a couple percent probably to transfer excise tax and like maybe another 0.5% to this or that or whatever? You're like, you know, you're getting into the 8 to 10% range to sell your house.
Yeah, but so like I said, this like literally just came out in like the past couple of hours, and I've been reading through different articles and trying to find ones that don't have paywalls because I'm cheap and I'm not going to pay for some subscription to read an article. But you seem to understand this a little bit better. So basically, it's antitrust laws. So explain it to me like you kind of did before we got in here. Basically,
yeah. So like an antitrust law, like typically you think price setting or price gouging is kind of, they kind of come in hand in this. This is my understanding of it. Is like with the agents. Think about it like a buyer and seller agent, like they talk to each other, right? The clients don't talk to each other, which is kind of nice when you're in negotiation because most people are passive and they don't want to be negotiating. So you have these agents on their behalf. Well, if you think about it at the highest level, those agents, the buyer agent and the seller agent, are both incentivized to get the highest price, right? Because their commission is variable based on the sale price. And so if you think about it, if they're like, hey man, like I can give you a little bit more money, I know my buyers are qualified for a little bit more. What if we push this up and you select me? Or they can do these kind of manipulations of the offer price so that their commissions are really high, but the net to the seller isn't necessarily better, or the net to the buyer isn't any better, or maybe they're worse off. So like that screams antitrust, but we've just kind of lived with it forever because like that's just what you do, right?
Yeah, and the problem is too is it's gotten even more questionable as well now, because especially we saw this in 2021 where you have all these federally approved lending programs, FHA loans, things like that, that basically make it so that anyone can get approved for the loan. And so this was like the whole thing in 2021 is you have the FHA lender that would come in and be like $50,000 over asking price, right? And you have to like give them some, points or whatever on the back end so they could buy down the rate and actually be able to afford the loan. But the actual commission that the realtors are getting paid on that is significantly more. And they knew that. They're not stupid, right? They're the ones that are heavily pushing to do that. And I mean, we flipped several houses where we would have a bunch of conventional buyers with conventional loans that would be like, at market price, a little bit over. And all of a sudden you'd have the FHA person from nowhere would come in $40,000 over. And you're like, oh shit, what is that? Right. And,
everybody looks,
you'd always take the offer. Right. And the reason this is such a big problem, I think too, is, obviously realtors, right? They're in most states, they're fiduciary. So they are technically required to have the best interest in mind of their sellers or their buyers.
Of their client.
And, this is obviously basically saying that they didn't necessarily do that. But also, too, one of the things that's now, I guarantee, going to come under scrutiny is how freaking easy it is to get a real estate license, right? Like, honestly, because you now have these people that are checking these boxes saying that, like, I understand all these rules, but do they really, if they're all just violating them? And that's going to be a whole other thing coming around is I guarantee you there's going to be some realtors that probably did very, very well in 2021. They have like the look, they went and they sold their realtor services in this hot real estate market to their church and their neighborhood and their CrossFit gym and all their friends and their high school that they went to and all this.
Their sphere of influence.
Yeah. And they did a bunch of illegal stuff and they didn't even know it. Right. And I guarantee you that that's going to come back around.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. It will come back around. And maybe not directly affect them hard, but their business is not going to exist in that same way.
It might affect them. Should they be held liable?
It could.
Like if you have a
realtor, it could.
If you have a realtor that, let's say they made like $2 million off of this and all their track record was their friends that couldn't necessarily afford a house but were going through and were regularly making $40,000 or $50,000 offers over asking price to get in these properties for no real reason to be doing that.
Well, just to get it accepted because that became the standard set by the cartel, right? Totally. And so I guess the point I would make is that either that or their actual broker, because all of the way it's set up, it's the responsibility just rolls uphill, right? And so the henchman will likely maybe be able to defer a lot of that responsibility to their designated broker, which may be able to defer that up to the like the Keller Williams, which is obviously getting named in this and these other large franchises that may have to be the ones that pay out ultimately, because like. You're not going to, because let's be honest, most of those realtors bought a BMW and like a pool for their house and they don't got that money. So they're not going to be able to get any of that back from them. So somebody's going to pay, right? And that's where they collect $5 billion. And then the interesting thing about this is, and I read an article, maybe not realizing it was related to this, but talking about potentially the change in why is the seller paying for the buyer's commission and potentially making that the way that gets basically paid out on the HUD is having that being paid through by the buyer as opposed to, like, I guess the US is maybe a little bit more unique that that the seller pays for the buyer's commission off the HUD, when in other places that have real estate brokers like this, that seller or the buyer is paying their buyer commission to find them the house.
So how it works, at least in European countries that I've explored this in, is there's typically a broker that does both. It's more like a commercial transaction.
Oh, okay.
And so like there's like a person that has the listing to the house. They work with the buyer. They work with both sides, and they're literally an individual broker.
Gotcha.
And and with that, I'm sure there's different rules. I'm not fully familiar with it.
I'm sure.
Most of them don't have like a two-party sort of situation. Like,
gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So that would be another just interesting change that could be tied to this big lawsuit, or that we could see going forward in the future.
yeah, but it's interesting though too, right? Because what they're being found guilty of is exactly what wholesalers do, which is what we do all the time, right? Where
Collaborate.
we collaborate with each other. You know, we talk with like the buyers, like we kind of negotiate both sides fully for our best interest. The difference is, and the benefit that we have is the fact that we're not licensed, right? We don't have any fiduciary responsibility to anybody, right?
Yeah, we're just individuals negotiating,
and we
right?
all
in good faith.
correct, and we also have equitable interest in the property by signing the contract, which technically opens up to penalty if we fail to perform on that contract and we don't meet the requirements of that contract. So we carry kind of more quote unquote risk, right, in general.
Yes.
But of course, what we do is we massage the contract so that it reduces our risk as low as possible. Whereas realtors don't have any of that. But so what's going to be very interesting to see is, will we start to see like a situation where we have like retail level wholesalers, right, who are now doing these transactions but off market from each other, basically off market, right? But you're basically, you know, you could be like a literal, you know, illegal back end realtor that goes and you're like, oh, I have somebody who wants to buy this house, and you can basically negotiate your own fee because you're trying to get away from these rules here.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
I bet there could be a play there, honestly.
There's probably some of that already going on. So I mean, you know, it would make sense.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's a state to state thing too, depending on different states of like how they decide to enforce some of this stuff too. Because like there's the federal stuff, and then there's like the state laws of like how they would adjust and change this. Because we're already seeing that, is why I bring this up with like kind of wholesaling in general, like how they're starting to treat that business in itself from a state level. And so maybe I don't know. I'm not even going to pontificate what's going to happen.
Yeah, but
because really, NAR's a huge. What do you call that, lobbyist? They have tons of people all around DC. So and we know that our congressmen and women and senators love real estate. And so we will see how they decide to handle this, because it's a big decision.
It is a huge
decision.
Yeah, and ultimately too, like it's a system that has been broken for a very, very long time. Everyone's known that it's been broken for a very long time. And this could be just one of the many tipping points that causes it to see a extreme change.
You know what? Here's what's going to happen. In 10 years, this is going to be like Sarbanes-Oxley. Sarbanes-Oxley, I'm not even going to get into the details of that, but like that's always kind of makes things complicated. It came out after like 2008, like issues, right? Like Google it. I'm not going to waste our time here talking about it, but it kind of makes things like a pain in the ass from like a reporting standpoint, financial auditing standpoint. You're like, why do we have to do all this? Like, oh, Sarbanes-Oxley. And it's because some people were taking advantage of a situation. Doesn't mean that those same people aren't taking advantage of situations, because they are. So in this case, what will happen is we'll have like another 1 or 2 forms that you have to fill out, disclosure forms that nobody ever reads. And they're like, what is this for? They're like, well, you remember back in 2023, they had this stupid freaking lawsuit. Now we all have to fill out these extra forms. Yeah, right. That's probably what'll happen.
Probably, yeah. There's the non-collusion form. Yeah.
Seriously, like, yeah, we're not colluding. I swear, wink, wink. Yeah. Oh my God. Anyhow, what's up? There's another one out there. What are we looking at?
So
what's the next big news?
This one I'm really excited about, because this was everywhere.
We have a personal kind of like connection to this one.
We do, yeah. So I'm just fascinated with the unbelievable rise of scammers that are just sort of like coming due over the last year.
Their loans are all getting called basically now. They're on borrowed time.
Exactly. Every time things get weird in the world, all the scumbags come out. And these guys,
I'm laughing because feels like so juicy. We have some gossip. And I know you're getting excited.
I am excited. So this was introduced to us because this was actually one of our sales guys. This was his old boss. So one of our sales guys, before he came and worked for us doing acquisitions, he worked for a company that was basically doing fundraising and helping find like off-market deals for the syndication company. Okay, and so they're doing all that sort of stuff. He's doing that thing. That's fine. And these guys are kind of big deals. Like, we actually tried to help them move a multifamily deal earlier this year. They had like this big one in Savannah, Georgia that they were trying to move. We helped them find buyers. Some stuff was kind of like weird about it. I didn't really feel good about it, so we ended up not pushing it too hard. Anyway, so I guess go forward over the past couple of years, these guys have been on like every podcast, speaking on stages. They're putting on huge events. They're doing like all this weird stuff.
Driving the fast cars.
Yeah. Trying to fast cars, doing the thing. All of a sudden, like a month ago, they disappeared, right? It's off face of the earth. All social media, everything gone. And so anyway, So they had like this syndication business. Their main business was this CPA firm based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, called Croft and Frost. If you want to go look them up, this is all over everywhere, all over Reddit and the news and everything. And that was their primary business, and they basically had the real estate businesses in tangent. And the accounting business they had was worth like $150 million, allegedly. And they had been going forever. It's like a legacy company. Basically, the entire thing just like shut up shop overnight. Like all the employees showed up and they're like a sign on the door saying, company shutting down, see you later. And this is like 2 days before the taxes were meant to be due, right? So this is like super recently, like for the end of the year, the extended taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. Disappeared off the face of the earth. Anyway, all this stuff is now starting to come out about what they were doing is basically they were stealing all of the money that they were syndicating to buy these properties. They didn't buy like any of these properties. They were just like raising the money and keeping it. And then they were paying their investors back with other money that they were raising. Classic, pyramid scheme.
Classic Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi scheme, right? Totally, I'll say totally fine. We've seen that before. Yeah. But they stopped being able to service the Ponzi scheme. So they went to their next source of capital, which was this CPA company.
Oh, no.
Where they had all these like huge companies, like 30, 40, $50 million companies that use them for a CPA firm. And this is like the kind of area where like somebody's daddy started like the ironworks company and was working with his buddy's CPA firm. And then their kids moved into the company and they worked together and like this whole thing. And they were paying their taxes to this CPA company so they could like pay to the IRS whatever they needed to do. And they just said, nah. And they decided they were going to keep it. And so they were like collecting. But the thing is, they have been doing this for the past couple of years. But because it takes the IRS time to sort of like get caught up on like the not paid taxes, all of a sudden everyone started coming around, right? IRS started coming around everybody and being like, hey, you owe us like a $700,000 penalty because you didn't pay your taxes in 2022. And everyone's going, whoa, wait, what? Yeah, we did. And then, obviously there were starting to be inquiries. And now the guys disappeared off the face of the earth. All social media gone. Like they probably just got on their jet, like went to South America and have disappeared. And they've stole like hundreds of millions of dollars across
dirt bags. That sucks.
So
that's terrible.
Crazy. But the funny thing is too, that's always so fascinating about this is they were doing illegal stuff for so long. Why are you talking on stages, bro?
Yeah, dude.
Like
seriously. Like
why are you going?
Here's my thought is like like I always say it's a slippery slope to get into the whole like rob Peter to pay Paul Ponzi scheme type stuff. Like maybe you start out like I always assume that the person's going to start out trying to do something and then they fail, ego gets involved. They think, hey man, if I'll just take this money, I'll raise some more money, we'll pay these guys off, get them out, we'll tell them that they got the return that we were supposed to get them, and then investment will get better. I believe in myself so much it'll get better, and they just keep doing that, and they keep doing that, and then they put it off, and finally it crashes down because a Ponzi scheme can only ran for so long. These guys, I feel like maybe started that way, but then we're like, YOLO, like let's just do this.
Totally.
And then in that case, you're right. Why would you be on stages? Just grab a pile of money and run. Like don't even try because you're going to get caught. Like you can only not pay another company's taxes for so long.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's 100% going to get caught up.
Yeah, there's no question. Like, what do you have that big of an ego? You're like, they'll never catch me. The federal government will never catch me.
No, but that's like literally like what these guys thought. Especially this one dude.
I know. They're like, oh, they're gonna hire 80,000 more IRS agents. They'll still never catch us.
Yeah. So the Frost guy just disappeared. This other dude, Croft, I don't know his first name, but. Before, I don't know if I can find it again, I found like his personal website, Paul Croft, and on his personal website, oh, here it is, maybe. So this is a guy that owns a CPA company. Oh, there's a PDF. I'll put this in the show notes so you guys can see it. So he talks about like his rags to riches story, his unique ability to form impactful relationships, has enriched his personal and professional life, blah, blah. Today, his net worth is north of $700 million, and he has goals to become he has goals to become a billionaire in the next year. Right?
No guy that looks like this, I'm pulling up his Instagram, is worth $700 million.
No,
he's got
he
a ton of gold chains. He's got 3 gold chains on his neck. He just looks like a total nerd.
Yeah, dude. But that, like, and he has like all these companies and different things he was doing. But the fact that he's just putting out there as someone that like owns a CPA firm, right? So in my mind, if you're someone that owns a CPA company and you're talking about how you're worth $700 million and you're going to be worth $1 billion the next year, that's suspect as hell.
Totally. Like, how do you get that big of a
Dude.
growth in your net worth?
No way. Yeah. So anyway,
It's too bad. On his Instagram, it looks like he's got a young son who's probably not going to get to see his dad for like 5 to 10 years or however long you go to prison for something like
bro,
this.
he doesn't give a shit about that kid.
He probably doesn't. He's a loser.
Weird narcissist, man. Like, oh man. But wild. Just
Whatever.
anyway, it was just sort of seeing, another like pretty large syndication investment company come crashing down like that because they were doing a lot of stuff. They were very big names. And then to sort of see how it also came together with something that people tend to view as being very trustworthy, right? And there's like a CPA firm. Like no one's really ever super skeptical about what their accountants are doing, especially with
Of course, right? They're like, oh yeah, bunch of nerds.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just
I'll like our accountant every once in a while, like I'll get a letter that say we didn't pay our taxes, or it'll be like, oh, because just like the filings or whatever. And I 100% trust it. Like I send him a picture of him, like, hey, can you take a look at this? He's like, yeah, we got it. I 100% assume he's got it. Like I have no like distrust in him.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, also, I think it's crazy. So it's on his sheet. This is probably all fabricated, but either way, he has it that his CPA firm, Crofts and Frost, was making revenue between $400 and $500 million annually as a CPA company, dude.
So he's basically like one of the big four. He's claiming to be like a big four CPA company, like KPMG or some shit.
Well, yeah, like you
You're
don't
not,
actually,
bro.
you have them pay you and then you steal their money. It works out great.
Such massive lies. It's
Anyways.
like
I'm
Jesus.
just so enthralled to see what other big names are going to continue to go down, right? I mean, we've seen this. We've had like a bunch of podcasters go down for raising money. We've talked about that on several Instagram reels. We've talked about it on here a few times. We know Pace Morby's coming with his bullshit.
Something's going to happen over there.
I'm starting to see more and more stuff about sub 2 people like in his group, in like his free Facebook group, of people being like, oh, I'm getting sued by the seller, by the bank, by like different people that are involved because they're not doing things right.
Totally.
Like the world, that whole world's going to come crashing down. That his dirty laundry's going to come out too.
Yep, absolutely.
so-
In like 2 to 3 years, if you've been trying to like get on Bigger Pockets or something, it'll be easy once they have half of their influencers in jail.
Right, they're all gone.
They're all gone from just being, you know what I mean. There's one other one that I wanted to talk about in the same vein because I think it's the one you had texted me a couple nights ago about the office buildings defaults. Like, so remind me what that was. Was that, which market was that, or was that national specific? But tell the whole story. But also,
I think it was in Austin. I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure of the location.
it was a specific like large metro though.
Yeah, it was. So
Yeah.
Aaron Amuchastegui shared it on Instagram. And if you're into like real estate, just like macroeconomics at all, he's fantastic follow. He's so into
really.
it. He has like no
Good shit.
no bullshit opinions on stuff. But she talked about this article. I think it was in Austin. But there was a skyscraper, like a $90 million skyscraper, that had been bought over the in past 5 years. They had gone and filled it up with tenants, done everything right. The thing was fully performing, fully rented. Everything with it was great. It came to the balloon payment for the commercial loan, which if you've never gotten a commercial loan before, guys, typically how it works is it'll be like a 10-year loan, and they will have an adjustment or a review period between 5 or 7 years, where basically they can say like, is this property still making sense for us? Do we want to call it? Do we want to adjust it? What does that look like? So they got to this 5-year standpoint, and the lender on this skyscraper basically just said like, cool, we're calling the loan. We don't want to hold this in our portfolio anymore. We want you to pay it off. And this is a property that is 100% fully performing. So they have no reason to
very
do
good
this, other than the fact that they don't want to hold it on their debt anymore. And the investors that hold this property, right, that bought it and have this debt, their options were either to go and refinance the loan, which at current 9% interest rates does not make sense unless they go and raise an obscene amount of money. Like they're not going to be able to do anything. They're going to take a huge loss, or to walk away. And so they walked away, and the bank is now foreclosing on this perfectly valid skyscraper in downtown, whatever market it was. And
I think it might have been Atlanta on that one. Was that one Atlanta?
Maybe.
I think that one was Atlanta, which again, it doesn't matter. A huge metro, right?
But the only people who get fucked in this are all of the private investors who put money into the syndication, and now all that equity is gone because the general partners walked away from it. The bank is getting their property, right, at probably a good discount that they know is fully performing. So they're like, yeah, absolutely. Right. And it's just like, that's unheard of before.
Wasn't there another one though you sent me that showed like every office building in that
Oh.
metro defaulted?
Yeah.
That was the one I was thinking about.
Oh, yeah, so that's-
that one was more crazy.
So yeah,
than,
so that's even another one. Yeah, we're just getting into the rabbit hole now. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was this was in last October. So this isn't in a single metro. This is in the country.
okay, the entire country,
In
the
the
United
entire
States of America,
So
land of the free, home of the brave.
yeah, in the entire country. Yeah, so basically all of these commercial loans for office buildings that are set up like I described, where they're getting called basically at 5 years, they have a 5-year review. Every single one that was maturing in the month of September, 9 out of 10 of those defaulted.
That's crazy.
Right. So that means that
9
basically
out of 10.
88.9% of the loans that were coming due in September, they either refused to refinance or the buyers defaulted and they went into some sort of foreclosure. Right. So that's total loans of $672 million with only 83 million actually getting paid off in that.
That's pretty nuts. So yeah,
that
that's
much.
half a billion.
That's insane.
In 1 month.
Yeah.
So if that happens month over month consecutively, you're going to have a lot of investors, which happen to be like also like people's retirements, by the way, like hedge funds and stuff like that. People's like big pension plans invest in big office buildings like that. And so like that definitely has some rippling effects across the economy. That's pretty major.
Yeah, and so it said the majority of the investors in these types of properties were exactly that. So basically, wealth management funds, retirement funds, and insurance companies, who typically like to hold triple net style stuff. And here's the great thing too about the fact that it's a bunch of all these insurance companies loosening their ass on this. Guess where they're going to make up that money? Coming back to all of us. Right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. They have to, right? So they got into a secure, what has been for decades a secure, safe investment. A skyscraper probably comes out. People show up every day. They punch in, they punch out. That's how the American world or American economy works. Very safe, and now it's not safe. So then the question is yeah, like where do they have to get their returns, right, for their investors? So they're going to have to start increasing costs elsewhere. That's going to have a trickle down effect on the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know though. Like, what is the next good play then? The next safe haven, because like office space is unique too. Is like there's like I was reading an article about this a few months ago. Like typically when we see a distressed asset, like that's what we invest in on the residential side. When you see a distressed asset, a lot of times either you take it, renovate it somehow, and then reoperate it the same way, or you take it and reposition. And in commercial, a lot of times repositioning is what you have to do, because like maybe like if you think about it on a small scale, like a strip mall, you know, maybe we're not, I don't know, like you don't need to go to a nail salon on that strip mall anymore. So in that area, it's not going to work, but you reposition that as something else.
Yeah.
With an office building, they were built with the intention of offices. And so people automatically say, well, just condo it out. You can't, because the infrastructure in the building is cost prohibitive to do that. You just can't do that in a lot of these big skyscrapers and a lot of these big office buildings, because just the way that they're built. So like, what do you do to reposition it? There's got to be something there. Somebody that's smart enough going to figure it out. But I mean, or maybe everybody's just going to band together and say, we need to get your asses back in the office.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great question, right? And, you know, it's something to address for sure, because our goal is to help you learn how to create massive income, not just like look at all this and be like, we're fucked, right?
Yeah, because we're definitely not. There's opportunity here.
There's opportunity.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, so I mean, I honestly still think that there's a ton of opportunity on the residential side. I mean, that's the reason I like residential
a lot of
real
upside.
estate, because even when the market gets weird, people still need places to live. You know, people used to always go towards the commercial stuff because, you know, industry has been strong in the United States for a while, but that's just getting kind of weird. I think anything around like affordable housing, there's probably a lot of opportunities still. You know, mobile home communities. We just had Amanda Cruz come talk to our instant investor group last week, and she had a ton of great insight on mobile home communities. I imagine there's going to be even more opportunities with stuff like that. I don't know. I personally like the stuff that we're looking at. I either want it to be, you know, in like the starter home price point where there's always going to be a buyer. Because even if like the current starter home buyers start to suck ass and get wrecked, right, you're going to have the next group that's going to come down there. And then if the class Bs start getting wrecked, the class As are going to come down there.
Exactly.
Right? So you basically have generations of shit before things get completely bad, right?
Totally.
In the starter home price point. And then aside from that, any way that you can secure more beneficial debt. And I don't think that's necessarily from sub twos, because I also think that all these people that are doing sub twos, the financial institutions are going to come calling for that money. That's at 2%, that's at 3%, especially when banks start taking losses. They're going to be like, or we could just get all that capital back and sell this house. And what everyone's always saying on that is like, well, banks aren't in the house flipping business. And you're like, you're right, they haven't been. But all of a sudden, when that house flipping opportunity becomes a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for them, they're going to become that house flipping.
You don't think JP Morgan Chase wants to do that? Yeah, some of them are already investing billions in turnkey rentals.
Exactly, and all of a sudden they start calling all these sub 2 loans and taking all these houses back. I wouldn't do that. So I think that the best debt that you can get right now is if you can negotiate beneficial seller finance terms with people that already have their cash in the deal, right? They're an owner that has property paid off, or you're able to get them paid off, and then you have them carry the note, because then you control the debt. Even though they technically are the ones that own the debt, if you establish the debt and it is a mom and pop person, you control it, because you're going to be more educated about it than they are versus
absolutely.
And have that with a bank.
And you're going to do that with an established relationship with a seller, because you should not do shit with crazy people anyways. So like it should be you should be vetting them just like they should be vetting you. Here's my theory on the sub 2. This is going to be way out there, because I still do think it's like a good transaction to do. Like there's certain situations, especially on the commercial side, this is actually surprisingly a little bit more common to see something like this than it would be like from a mom and pop selling their house sub 2. But here's my theory. Some like dude's going to go through like a sub 2 course. They're going to learn how to do it online somehow. And their dad's going to happen to be like a middle management hard charger at a bank. And he's going to hear about it. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? You can't do that. That shit's illegal. And he's going to be like, look at this. There's millions of people talking about this online. And that dude's going to be like, there's my promotion, dog. And he's going to pitch it. And then they're going to find some nerd in the IT department. He's going to be like, hey, is there a way, like if we could just like take all the addresses where our loans are attached to and then look and see like all the owners, if there's any changes on those county records? And some nerds are going to be like, absolutely. We're going to build like a web scraper. We'll do this. We'll set up an Excel spreadsheet. And then you can take a percentage of how much money you're going to save the bank. And he's going to get promoted to like VP for this, and that's how he's going to stake it, and that's how it's all going to collapse.
Yeah, exactly. I can already see the Netflix movie about it, or like the
exactly.
who made The Big Short was the director. He's done several movies that are kind of like that style.
Oh, I don't know.
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I'm not good at like movie names.
Martin Scorsese.
I see. That's what I thought, but he's Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Okay.
He's like kind of that fast out. Adam McKay. I've never heard of him, so never mind. I'm talking about him. But yeah, there'll be a movie about that, right? That's the housing crisis that's going to come on top of all of the commercial.
They're going to say the storyline is going to be like, hey, for history, we always said that commercial and residential was decoupled, and then this one smart dude found out that they weren't, and then he shorted it all because office space was crashing. We all didn't realize how it was all coupled together, and it collapsed.
Yeah, it is. It's just super fascinating. Like, I don't know. I feel like this stuff has been building up for a while. If you look at like that situation with that skyscraper we talked about, we look at like embezzlement, as crazy as this Frost and Croft, whatever the fuck their names are, that we talked about. You look at the thing with the National Association of Realtors. Like, those are all very major things that have happened in a very short period of time. And I feel like that is just the beginning of like a lot of stuff that's going to come over the next couple of months. Yeah,
there's got to be some, when you're playing with like assets that are that large, and like you said, you rattled off types of people that are investing in it. Like there is got to be some trickle down effects there.
Yeah.
I don't know what those look like. I will say that what I'm going to continue to do is like do what I know. I'm going to stay in my lane and continue to invest in real estate, because I know, especially if you're like investing locally, like real estate is hyper local. Like we don't have an office market here that's going to totally affect like the commercial space here. Obviously people's retirement funds and people that are invested in these big firms are going to feel that. But like for us, like residential is our sweet spot here locally, and we're going to look at opportunity and continue to invest as we normally would. We're just going to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves, because you never know if there's more opportunity out there. You want to have money in front of you.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's all the beginning, especially too as they're saying everyone's COVID savings are going to be disappearing here if they haven't already over the next couple of months. Yeah. I think stuff's finally going to start to get weird. People have been saying it forever. We're going to be going into 9, 10, 11% interest rates, with inflation, with people at rock bottom savings, right into an election year. Next year's going to be freaking wild, dude. I really
think it's going to be hot. I think it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. I'm kind of so bullish, but I have no idea what to think, honestly. I think the holidays, like get post holidays, is going to be like that's when shit's going to start getting figured out.
You know what?
Like what's going to shake out is going to shake out.
The one thing that I am bullish on is there will always be ways for people to make money if you are in the position and the mindset to try and figure out how to make money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially in a capitalist country like the United States, you should do everything that you can to not be lower middle class, like literally anything. And if you can get past that and you can sort of stay in that crowd, you'll probably be fine. Right?
A good example of that is like war. Like the U.S. has prospered anytime there's a war, which makes you think like, why are we? Look at all these wars going on right now in the world. But the U.S. has always prospered. And it's because there's people like, typically you think that'd be bad for the economy. The people that figure out how to sell bullets, they're doing all right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at the entire, Russian oligarchs and all that, right? Those were all the dudes that figured out how to do it during the communist.
Figured out how to hustle. Yep.
Cold War. But and I'm not saying that's right. That's not necessarily how it should be. There shouldn't be a huge us and them thing that exists, but unfortunately, that is the truth. Right?
You got to educate yourself, man. You got to get after there and figure shit out. Mm-hmm. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah. So, awesome. Cool. Anything else, Dan, before you finish up?
Nope. Let's roll.
Right on, guys.
Trick-or-treating.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, happy Halloween. It's Halloween on the day we're recording this. So, cool, guys. Well, we appreciate you all. If you have any other scams or crazy stories, you should send them to us. You should message them to either of us on Instagram. I'm at Mike_invests. Dan is at InvestorManDan. You can also email me if you really want at mike@collectingkeys.com.
The sleazier, the better.
The sleazier, the better, dude.
Wait, keep it related to like real estate. I mean, I don't need to get viruses on my computer, but definitely we like the gossip.
I'm just infatuated right now with like all this shit that's going on. Like it's so mind-blowing to me. But I would love to check it out. Send it to me on Instagram. Email it to me. That'd be awesome. And besides that, guys, you should share this with your friends. It's a great way to help us grow, and we really appreciate it. And every person that you tell technically is worth 1.8 other people that they're going to tell too. So basically, you're helping us exponentially grow, according to what like dudes like Alex Ramosi and other people say, which they seem to be doing.
I believe it. So definitely do it. Like we appreciate everybody, all of our listeners, and we don't have any advertisements, so like we get paid by your love and affection.
Exactly. So cool. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate you all, and we'll talk to you next week.
See ya.